Hello and welcome back to the land of SIKA, and we're going to be attacking Varagos Castle here. Obviously we're deep in Yarian territory at the moment, and I want to try and take as many of their fiefs as we can. And of course, in doing so, that is hopefully going to make it so that they actually want to give us a good tribute. Now, obviously the tribute in general is not really, I don't really care about it that much, okay? You know, spoiler, I don't really care about it that much. That's the thing. The tribute is going to be great, right? If we get a good tribute, that's fine. That's great. That's fantastic. You know, we're happy to have that. However, it is not the main reason why we want to have that tribute. The main reason why we would like to actually, you know, actually force them into a peace agreement that gives us a good amount of money is so that we can eventually, or shall we say, try to economically damage the Aryans as much as possible. Because obviously we're already taking fiefs away from them, and in doing so, taking fiefs away from them is indeed making it much more possible for us to make more money and for them to make less money. And obviously making less money in their case is definitely going to make all the difference in the world to how strong their armies are going to be. So that is generally kind of the idea, and hopefully something that I'll be able to accomplish. And you can see here that we're now having to do some very funny actions here, trying to eliminate these wonderful defenders. I'm actually very much enjoying the fact that I'm taking massive damage here, but I'm just absolutely shrugging it off. I am just shrugging it off like no one's business. Nothing is happening to me right now. I seem to be just going like, oh yes, I'm being shot in the face, that's fine, I don't mind. I've obviously been playing a little bit of warband recently, and generally it is much more difficult. I know, it's actually kind of strange to actually say that, because obviously warband, I mean, maybe you wouldn't think it's more difficult. I mean, it depends. There are certain aspects of it, obviously, that are more difficult, and then there are certain aspects that are easier. And money, very specifically, is a lot easier to gain in... actually, wait a minute. I think that also is a bit dependent on a variety of situations and a variety of circumstances and things. But generally, I would say that money in warband is easier to come by, just purely for the fact that workshops and enterprises and so on and so forth are just easier to manage. I mean, I have literally, you know, an enterprise in the series at the moment, in the warband series at the moment, that I believe gives me 1,200 gold every single week. Now, obviously, you know, it's a completely different payment structure in Bannerlord. You're going to be paying your units every single day. Your workshops are going to be churning out money every single day in comparison to every single week. So personally, I feel like I prefer the weekly structure. I think the weekly structure is generally, in my opinion at least, I feel like it provides a bit more leniency to you as the player. You don't really need to stress a huge amount about, you know, finding money. And I've been in a variety of situations in Bannerlord especially that actually make it so that it's really difficult to maintain your money if you have started to level up your units without having a significant amount of money saved up already, or a significant amount of power in your army to be able to tackle a variety of vassals to fund that you know, fund said army, basically. So that's the difference. It's a lot easier to manage your money in warband, but the combat is a lot more difficult. I mean, I'm not saying that the combat is more difficult in the way that you are going to deal with swinging your weapon, for example, because obviously swinging your weapon in warband is, I would say, probably easier. It seems like the weapons are a bit lighter. They don't have as much force behind them, which obviously is intended because, of course, it's a bit more... I don't want to say arcadey, because it's not really arcadey, but it's a little bit more... floaty, I guess you could say, because when I swing this, you can kind of feel the weight behind it, right? But when you're playing warband, it's a bit more instant. You get a bit more instant damage, and your swing speed is a lot faster, or at least that's what I've That's what I've seen so far. Anyway, we've been able to take this, which is actually very nice indeed. I can now rescue all of these people. And we're going to be putting them in the garrison in just a second as well. And we're getting a good amount of loot. And speaking of loot, that's exactly the reason why I say that, in general, I personally feel like warband is a little easier when it comes to its money situation. Because when you're taking loot from battles, you're obviously thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to have to go and sell this. I'm going to have to try and make money as fast as possible. And then that's the thing. I was actually not shocked, so to speak, but I was actually very pleased to see that it was indeed a weekly structure, because in Bannerlord, obviously, it's daily, so you really need to be on the ball. You need to be so on the ball about the about your wages and about your loot and all that wonderful stuff. But in Warband, you can basically go, okay, I'm going to fight a bunch of bandits and hopefully earn enough money before the next week comes around, and my wages are then going to get taken, Whereas in Bannerlord, it's a lot more high stress, a lot more high pressure, because the more and more that you fight, obviously the more experience you're going to gain for your units, and they're going to level up, and then they're going to cost more every single day. So you need to balance. It's a bit of a weird balancing act. You need to balance the kinds of units that you're leveling up and the kind of units that you're actually fighting, because you do not want to fight units that are too low level. Because if you fight units that are too low level, they're not going to give you as much loot, or the loot is going to be relatively It's not going to be very good. So, for example, if you're only fighting looters the entire time, then you're probably going to have a, not a very good time, because inevitably, even while fighting looters, you are going to be able to level up your units. They are going to level up, it's just a matter of time. However, in Bannerlord, in Warband actually, you're not really having that many difficulties in regards to making money, because, as I say, every single week, no problem. You can pretty much just go, okay, I'm gonna fight these guys, try and get them as much loot as possible. You get the loot, and then you go and sell it, and then you think, oh, look at that, I got 10k, I got 8k, I'll do a tournament, I'll earn another 4k from that, and then you're good, then you're good. And then from there, you think, oh, okay, look at that. I've got 10k. I'm gonna, invest in a workshop or something like that. Invest in an enterprise or something. And then from then on, you're fine. You're basically fine, because unless that faction that has the workshop declares war against you, which is somewhat possibly unlikely. I mean, it very much depends. But let's just say that they do declare war against you. In Bannerlord, the difference between these is staggering, because what can actually happen is, in Bannerlord, when you have an enterprise, or as they are known here, a workshop, you're actually going to be seeing your workshop be completely destroyed, basically. You see your workshop be completely destroyed. So, for example, let's say that and I'm going to be talking about the base game here, not Land of SIKA factions. So let's say that I have a workshop in Botania, and the Botanians declare war against my faction. I will lose that workshop completely. It will just get destroyed and removed from the game. That's basically it. Because in Botania, obviously, they're going to be knowing that I own the workshop, and they're going to be annoyed about that because I'm now an enemy of theirs. And so they're going to ransack the workshop and just completely destroy it. So that is one thing that is very, very different about the two games, because you may think it's a minor thing. But think about it. How much money does it take to actually buy a workshop in Bannerlord? It takes, what, 15,000? Maybe more than that, maybe less than that. It doesn't really matter. But what does matter is the fact that when you're doing this, you are consistently thinking to yourself, is this actually going to stay in my control? Am I still going to have this? And that's the problem. You need to invest very wisely. I think that's what the developers are trying to do. They're trying to say you can't just build workshops in every single town and in every single faction. Because here, I mean, obviously in Warband, you don't really have the ability to wait a minute, where are my workshops? There we go. I have the ability to have 6 workshops. Obviously, this is something that they wanted to change. I assume that they felt like this was imbalanced in some way or another. Because in Warband, you don't have a limit. You don't have a limit to the amount of workshops that you can build. So theoretically, you could actually go around to every single faction in the game, and if they're neutral with you, you can just buy as many Weavery and Dye Works as you want. Weavery and Dye Works is the best enterprise in Warband. Generally, it is the best, cost-efficient ratio, so on and so forth. But sometimes you want to get an Ironworks or something like that, which is like a smithy in Bannerlord, if you don't know. And yeah, sometimes you want to get one of those. But what I'm basically saying is they've limited the amount of economical strength that you can have in Bannerlord. And they've also made it much more high stress. So, for example, as I say about the daily wages, because the daily wages are obviously coming in every single day. Your workshops are producing a lot less money, which is really strange as well. I personally don't really like that much. I feel as though if you invest, I don't know, 15,000, 16,000 in a workshop, I feel like you should be gaining at least 100 to 150 every single day, and some of the time you do. Obviously, this is, you've got to bear in mind that if you think about how it is in Warband, because if you there's a very specific little I mean, I don't really know if you could call it a trick, so to speak, but if you know about this, then you can obviously make the most of it. But there is a certain town in Warband that if you build a Weavery and Dye Works in it, it's going to give you far superior profit than if you were to build it anywhere else. And so that's something to bear in mind. So in other words, if I were to start a game of Warband, which I obviously have very recently, the 10th anniversary of my very first playthrough, which is exactly the reason why I'm playing it, and maybe you've seen it, I don't know, maybe you've seen every single anniversary series so far, which, well, there's been one before that, the 5-year one, of course. But the point is, let's say I start a game of Warband and I get like, what, I don't know, 10k. I think I need 10k to make a Weavery and Dye Works. Yeah, so 10,000 gold. So that would basically mean I need to win 3 tournaments, or I need to do a couple of tasks, or I need to fight a bunch of Sea Raiders, or whatever the case may be. Pretty easy to get 10k. So then you go over to this town, you buy the Weavery and Dye Works, and then after a week, the Weavery and Dye Works will be up and running, and then it will start giving you profit. And what's really amazing about that is that it basically covers your entire wages for pretty much the majority of the early game. And it gives you 1,200 gold every single week. And if you obviously, divide that by 7, that's not actually going to be... That's going to be quite a lot, in my opinion. I feel like that's going to be quite a lot per day in comparison to the workshops that you get in Bannerlord. So the economical changes that they have made between the two games are actually quite significant. And, well, while you can obviously do trading a lot more effectively, in my opinion at least, I mean, you can still do trading in Warband as well, and I've actually been very... I don't know, I feel like I should probably do more trading in Warband, to be honest, because I haven't actually really explored that facet of the game that much, whereas I have done quite a lot in Bannerlord, so I have a bit of an understanding about it. But yeah, anyway, so the economical changes are quite sweeping, which is pretty cool if you think about it. But as I say, they have made it a lot more difficult to shall we say, start off in Bannerlord than it would be in Warband. So There are the differences. There are the differences. But that's exactly the reason why, if I hark back all the way to the very beginning of the episode, when I was talking about what I want to do with the Yarians here by trying to force them into the best possible tribute that they can provide us, if we do that, we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great time because they're not going to have as much money to be able to spend on their troops and their armies. And then it's just going to be even easier for us to hopefully eliminate them in the end. But of course, in the end, as I say, you don't really need to worry too much about your money situation in Bannerlord. Because you can see here, I have 580,000. It's pretty significant, you know, 580,000 is quite a lot. But, I mean, that's the thing. I basically don't need money anymore, you see. I don't need money anymore. It's kind of similar in Warband, I suppose. You're not really going to need money at a certain point. But the thing is, this isn't even the extent of how much money I have. Because of the new inventory system in Bannerlord, it actually does make a pretty significant difference overall. So, for example, because of this, the inventory capacity, due to it being weight-based rather than just being, you know, Resident Evil style, where you know, have only a certain amount of slots, basically. Yeah, I mean, that's not really the best way for me to describe it, but basically you have a limited amount of slots and one item takes up one slot. So, yeah, that's basically how that works. Very kind of old school-ish. About the inventory capacity. But that is exactly my point. You can't run around in Warband with a large amount of, well, shall we say, solid assets. It's not a case of having liquid assets in this case. You know, you're not going to have a lot of money in Bannerlord, but you might have a huge amount in your inventory, like I do right now. And I mean, obviously, I do have some pretty significant cash, but generally, I can sell this. Like literally, I could go if a marketplace actually had more money than normal, because most of the time they have around I don't know, 60 to 80k. If they had more than that, I would probably be able to make 200,000 or something like that. Just purely from loot. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, you know. You can kind of just have a bit of a nest egg so that if something bad happens, let's say that all of a sudden I don't know, I gain a massive boost in army capacity and all of a sudden I'm running around with 500 units or 600 units or something like that. I mean, I'm kind of almost there, but let's just say that happens. And then my wages are spiraling out of control. I'm spending 15,000 per day or something along those lines. Then I have that money to fall back on in my inventory. It's not actually part of my gold reserve at the moment, but it will be relatively soon. So that's actually kind of a reason why Warband might be a bit more difficult in that aspect. But I don't know. It very much depends on your own perspective and how you play the game, because obviously you can play both games extremely differently from the next person, which is actually the whole point, isn't it? Very cool for us to be able to do that. Someone may want to use a bow, someone may want to use thrown weapons, someone may not want to use any ranged at all, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's just continue leveling up these forces. And what we're going to do is actually just take a quick look at my skills. It seems like we're all kind of maxed out right here. I'd like to get my polearm to 275, so that's the reason why I've actually been using it a little bit more in some of these battles. And I'm actually now using warband keybinds. Yes, I'm I'm pressing control and spacebar to speed up, which is really funny because as far as I'm aware, does that actually work? No, that doesn't actually work. Okay. Yeah, I was actually thinking that it was working for a second, but no, it's actually not. Anyway, there's a fellow here that we can eliminate. Once again, I am attempting to take as many of them prisoner as possible, by the way. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I will probably head on over to Paklu in just a second after we do this. And we will probably be placing all of these prisoners in there, because I'm not entirely sure on the calculation But I'm going to hope and assume that putting them in the prisoner's hold is going to make them more difficult to escape. We're going to make it more difficult for them to escape, shall we say. I can only hope that that's the case, because obviously in warband it's a bit different. You know, I know very, very specifically what the percentage chance is of them escaping, and you can make it a lot more difficult for lords to escape if you build a prisoner tower improvement. But in Bannerlord, I don't think there is anything like that. I think it's just in a perk. I think there's a perk that a governor can take, possibly, that does make it more difficult for prisoners to escape. So that's something to bear in mind. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Governors, for me at the moment, are not really that useful. And yes, okay, I'm not saying that as a sweeping statement here. They are useful in a certain amount of situations. For example, I've used one in this series. If you remember all the way back to when we had Ji, she joined us. She was part of the Yan dynasty, and that was actually fantastic because this was also before I installed the Distinguished Service mod. So I didn't really have any companions that were also part of the Yan dynasty that I could make into governors or make into vassals or anything like that. But generally, if you were to have a governor that has the same culture as the town that you're inhabiting, then that's great, because that can actually reduce the loyalty drain that you're going to have by a small amount. It's not a massive amount, but by a small amount. And then obviously, apart from that, you do have a variety of governor-related perks that you can actually use to help you out in managing an aggressive town, or a town that used to be aggressive but is now under your control. So that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing about governors in the game. However, I feel as though they don't do... I don't know. It feels to me like they don't do enough to really be worth it. I feel like policies are where it's at. Policies are absolutely amazing, in my opinion, for a variety of reasons. For example, forgiveness of debts, settlement loyalty increased by 2 per day. This is literally one of the most powerful things in the game, in my opinion at least. Forgiveness of debts is really not very good. People don't like it. I mean, I'm talking about vassals here. Vassals don't really like this at all, because what it does is it reduces the settlement's production by 5%. Personally, I don't really think that 5% is worth it, because the loyalty is going to cause rebellions, and it's going to cause all manners of problems, and I'd like to try and avoid that as best I can. But, you know, maybe they care more about the money or the monetary value that the production can actually provide. I don't really know. But, yeah, that's something to you know, think about at least. Anyway, we're just going to sell a couple of these things right here. I could actually do some smithing, which I probably should do, but... yeah, I haven't actually installed any of those mods that give me unlimited stamina. I know some people really don't like the stamina system, me included, but obviously I just didn't do that yet, which I probably need to do at some point. Anyway, I'm going to just sell a bunch of these. Wait a minute, can I? Oh, okay. Yeah, let's just sell a bunch of these. There we go. Alright, fantastic. So we're going to get 78,000, and as you can quite clearly tell, we have a massive amount of loot in our inventory, and it's just incredible. Okay, so let's just make some charcoal right here. It takes 5% of my energy every single time I make some charcoal, which is really quite funny. And otherwise, let's have a look. I'd like to do this. Oh, wow, there's just way too much stuff here. I might need to do something about that, but yeah, you can see exactly what's happening to my energy right now. It's actually kind of ridiculous. I mean, yeah, sure, you know, smelting and so on and so forth, that's definitely going to be, you know, it's going to be tiring, right? It's going to be tiring, of course, but it's a game, so I'd kind of like it to be a little bit less annoying, but, you know, I can just install the mod, so obviously that's absolutely fine, but generally I would like to get my smithing up a little bit more. Let's just make a little bit more of this, and there we have it. Okay, that's pretty much all I can do. Sad. Oh well, never mind. Okay, so I'm actually going to think about taking Epinosa Castle now. because that seems to be the next logical step. So let's move on over there and see exactly what is going on. I actually wanted to put my prisoners in Paklu's dungeon, but that actually doesn't work, apparently. That actually doesn't work at all, so we are not going to be able to do that, unfortunately. I would love to have been able to, but for some reason I can't donate prisoners to there. So I'm probably going to have to make my way back to Haikwan or one of my own fiefs to actually make that happen. That would be fantastic. I would love to be able to do that, but yeah, can't do that right now. We're just going to have to, you know, press our advantage as much as we possibly can. I'm going to go and see after this in the diplomacy menu. I'm going to see what kind of tribute the Aryans are willing to give us, because if they're willing to give us, I don't know, what kind of money do you think we should accept? Do you think we should accept something like, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 per day? I mean, I'd accept something around that number. Anything more than that would be quite nice, you know. That would be pretty advantageous for us, and it would definitely drain them of some of their reserves. But obviously they do still have a bunch of towns under their control, which is definitely something that I will want to try and do something about. This is exactly the reason why I absolutely love siege ladders in Bannerlord as well, and indeed in Warband too. I feel like siege ladders are very, very enjoyable to use, but in Warband slightly less so sometimes, because you are of course going to have situations where you get pushed off. Yes, don't even remind me about that. Yeah, you can get pushed off very, very easily, because of course it's more of a slope, it's more of a ramp than it is an actual ladder. So you're not going to be holding on to it like you do in Bannerlord, so there's also that. And we're just going to try and level up my polearm skill a little bit more here. Can my guys actually... Oh, there's a person over there. I'd actually like my forces to charge in. Let's just get this guy dead if I can. Got him. Alright. And now we can actually make our way over here and hopefully try to stem the flood of units coming in from the reinforcement zone. I'd like to try and prevent that if at all possible. Guys, can you actually help me out here by just doing a little bit of cleaving attacks with your sword? I'd really appreciate that. Seems like my forces are having some rather weird issues here. I don't really know why they're having so many problems. Okay, well, I'm just going to try and get past here. There is another enemy up there, I believe, isn't there? I can't believe I missed those two. Okay, that was actually really bad. Oh well, never mind. I think we should be absolutely fine here, so we're probably just gonna go and do a little bit of a speed up after this. Yeah, it's such an unwieldy thing to use a polearm in such close quarters, but I don't really have any skill in anything else, so using a polearm is pretty much my only option here if I want to use melee. But it's okay. I mean, I've got decent skill in it, but it is going to be much more difficult than if I was using a one-handed or even a two-handed in certain situations as well. I mean, you know, I absolutely love using two-handed swords. They are really, really fun to use. Alright, there we go. We lost 0 people. Wow, actually, that's actually pretty cool. I like it. And we're not going to be doing anything with... Actually, you know what? I'm just going to take the troops. I might as well. It's just a little bit more busy work than I would like to do, because I don't really want to micromanage every single one of these fiefs, because of course they're not actually going to go to me. They're going to go to someone else most of the time. So yeah, I generally don't want to do that. Oh, I should have actually put some money in the other castles. Yeah, I actually forgot about that. Oh, never mind. They don't even need any money. Look at this. Wow, this is incredible. Rank 3, all rank 3. That is really, really impressive. Super impressive for the Aryans to actually be improving their fiefs in such a dramatic fashion. Very cool. Alright, well, whatever the case, we're going to just be going in versus Eodicea. Eodicea is now our next target. Hello there. And yeah, this is a relatively large army, but we should be fine as long as we have a decent battlefield. Let's take a look at it. Oh, really? Okay, well, it's okay. It's alright, you know, it's not too bad. It is going to be... I'm not a big fan of these. I don't like the valley fights. Valley fights are okay. I don't have a problem with them, but I don't really like them that much. Mostly because they provide such limited strategic options. And while you may think of me as someone that is a bit of a bumbling idiot at most times, all the time, whatever, you know, generally, you know me, but you may think of me like that, but here's the thing. Generally, I actually like, and indeed prefer, battlefields that actually give me some options. I think we did a battle a number of episodes ago, and we were actually in such a wonderful place that it gave me the ability to basically flank the opponent from two different choices. There was a river in the center. I think you might remember this. There was a river in the center, and there was a bridge on one side, and then there was a natural bridge made out of sand on one of the other places. So you could basically choose where your units wanted to go. And in my opinion, that was one of the most fun battlefields that I have played on in my time playing Bannerlord, which is actually saying a lot, because that basically says I really love the ability to choose between these two things, because the AI also had to make that decision, and they basically decided that they wouldn't defend against the natural bridge. So the sand bridge was just completely dominated by us. We went across there with our cavalry, and we just completely flanked them. There was nothing they could do. We just flanked them so incredibly completely and devastatingly that they couldn't do anything. They were just completely outmatched. It was so incredibly fun to see that, because any single time you give me the opportunity, or should we say the game gives me the opportunity, to employ some kind of flanking strategy that has such cinematic and just really satisfying effects to it, I am all over that thing. You know, that is exactly what I want to see when I play this game, because those kinds of situations are so incredibly enjoyable to be in. They're really, really fun. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Whereas in the valley, you can see here, I mean, what is there to do? I basically put my archers all the way back there, and then I tell everyone else to charge in. That's pretty much the only thing I can do in most situations in the valley. There's not much else I can do, you know, because what else can I do? I mean, unless the AI is just, I don't know, putting themselves out of position or something like that. I mean, yeah, generally I could take my cavalry, I could do a little bit of a flank here and there, but most of the time, is it worth it? I'm gonna say probably not. Probably not. It's just not worth the hassle in attempting to get around the enemy and then go from behind them, and yeah, it just seems like too much work for not much payoff in comparison to the previous map that I was talking about, which I personally love. But yeah, that's the reason why I don't really like the Valley map that much. I think it's cool, don't get me wrong. I think it's really cool to have different ways of fighting, because obviously it does actually encourage the player in using slightly different strategies, or using or being forced, shall we say, into a situation that is a bit uncomfortable. Because this is very uncomfortable, as you can see right here. We've got walls, well, not walls, but natural walls on either side made out of rocks. And we can't really go up there, you know? There's no way for us to go up there, but we can utilize this slight ledge sloping effects on either side to provide our archers with a high ground to fire from. Which, you know, we can do that, you know? We can do that if we want to. But obviously that's basically where the end of the strategy kind of goes, which is a bit sad, but not really that big a deal, I suppose. But yeah, as I say, it's just a bit more of an uncomfortable situation. Oh, Fenoria actually died on the battlefield. I don't believe that is one of ours. I think that is one of the enemies. So, yeah. Wow, we were able to take a huge amount of them prisoner as well. That's really, really good. Oh, I actually am continuing to... yeah, that's actually something that... that's a bad habit that I've picked up from warband now. Usually I will leave the prisoners from warband because I don't have a huge amount of prisoner management in my playthrough at the moment. But here's the thing. I should really be looking for those unique units. Yeah, that's a bit of a... That's a bit of a mistake on my part. Oh, well, my bad. I still have a significant amount of them, as you can see, in my prisoner's hold here, so it's actually not even really necessary for me to do that. But, you know, it's always a good idea to try and maximize the amount of strength that you have. Anyway, we're going to just take a quick look. Oh, wow. Okay, hello there. They are wanting to give me almost 7,000. Which I would love to, but I kind of want to. I kind of want to be a bit greedy. All right, I kind of want to be a bit greedy, and I would like, if at all possible, to take one of their towns. Oh yes, because if we take one of their towns, they are going to be even more likely to be just super annoyed at me. And then they're going to say, no, we're not going to give you any tribute whatsoever. We're going to offer you a peace agreement. And then the peace agreement itself will have you providing us money. Look. Oh, the Lamoka are now declaring war on the Yarians. Okay, there's also that happening. Okay, interesting. That means that the Lamoka are going to be coming in here, and they're probably going to try and encroach on our aggression and try to capitalize off it, which I am not too pleased about, but that's okay. That's not that big a deal. And wait a minute. Nicania. Alright, so Nicania has actually declared war against us right now. So what we're going to do is we will be making peace with the Aryans, but I will be taking this first. Oh yes, mark my words. We will be taking this first. I am going to try to take this first at the very least, because maybe I'm not even going to be able to do it. But I will try, okay? Yes, look at this. A courier with a peace offer. No, you can get out of here with that. How much? 8,000. 8,300. Oh my. I would love to do that. Alright, so yeah, what we're going to do is we're just going to head straight on in here, take this town, and then hopefully at that point I will be able to accept that wonderful tribute of over 8,000. That would be amazing. That would be so incredibly amazing. One of the first times that I've ever seen a tribute that large. I think probably have seen one with about, I think 12,000? I think 12,000 was the most, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. Ooh, this is cool. I like the fact that it's next to the water. That is it. Yeah, this is a cool siege map. I like it. The scale of it and the scope of it is very fun, from what I can tell. All right, so these guys are going to get the ladders up. I'm going to just cover them real quick, just in case. There's an enemy up there. Oh, okay. Apparently I missed him somehow. I'm not entirely sure how that happened. Anyway, let's just move up here. Oh, this is bad. Oh, hello. Is this bad? Maybe it's not so bad. I think we might be okay. Can we? Okay. Whew. That was kind of funny. Alright, perfect. Okay. little breather, and now sniping. He says, yes. And now he literally, I said, and now sniping, and then missed my first shot. That is hilarious. Isn't that just me? Yeah, that is such a classic thing to happen to me every single time. What a wonderful thing indeed. Oh, well, never mind. Oh, there's some long-range shots that I can get going on here. Look at this. What are those guys even doing over there? It's kind of a bit weird. Not entirely sure what they're all doing over there, but okay. Guess I'm just going to shoot them. And, wow, this is just a shooting gallery right now. This is literally just a shooting gallery. I have no idea what these guys are even doing over there. They seem to actually be able to hit me from here too, which is kind of weird. But, yeah, my forces have just completely swarmed the enemy's forces, and they really cannot do anything. They are just completely done. And is that the gate over there, actually? Is that where the gate is? Yeah, that must be, because I see a little road going up to the walls. So that must be where the central gate is. That's a very strange layout, but I like it. I like this layout a lot. That's actually something that I should really mention, because obviously I've been talking about how, you know, workshops and so on and so forth are not that good in Bannerlord, but generally I feel like the siege combat has been improved dramatically, which it should be. I mean, really, that was one of the weakest points in Warband, in my opinion, because obviously at some point you have such limited choices, really. You know, in Warband you just have siege ladders or siege towers, and you can't decide between them, by the way. So if you haven't played Warband, you can't decide between them. So there's no choice. You know, you can't decide to go in straight away like I have right now with siege ladders alone, or you build a siege tower, or you build a battering ram, or anything like that. In the base game of Warband, you can't do anything like that. You basically just go up to a town or a castle, and you start the siege, and then it goes, okay, would you like to build your siege ladders now, or would you like to build your siege tower now? And they just give you one choice, dependent on the layout of the castle. And that has led, in many of my mod playthroughs and mod series and so on and so forth, that has led to some extremely painful situations and some incredibly intense moments as well. If you ever watched my... I can't remember which one it is now. I think it was 1.2, not entirely sure, but I think there was one series of A Clash of Kings. Generally, A Clash of Kings was actually a very good series in general. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot, at least, for a variety of reasons. But there was one moment in one of these series where I was attacking the Iron Islands. And I took a number of their fiefs, and then I basically... Oh, I forgot to look through the prisoners again because I was lost in thought. Wonderful. Oh well, as I say, it doesn't really matter that much, all things considered. It really does not matter. But whatever the case, yeah. So I took a bunch of their fiefs, and then all of a sudden, a massive campaign, because you can't call for armies in Warband, you just call the marshal of the faction will call for a campaign, and then every other vassal will follow them. And there was a massive amount of units outside this one town that I had just taken, and there was, I think, was it 1,400? I think it was 1,400 units or something like that, or maybe, I don't know. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a large number, that's for sure. It was a large number, and I had to defend against them. And it was so incredible. It was such an incredible, very intense experience. Really, really fun to do that, because the layouts in the Clash of Kings were obviously very different and everything, and the enemy was just pouring in, and it was just so incredibly fun to do. But yeah, anyway, as I say, the siege combat has been improved dramatically in Bannerlord by a massive margin, because you're able to enter from multiple different points. In Warband, you can't do that. You can enter from one point most of the time with just one siege ladder or one siege tower. That's pretty much it. And obviously having the ability to open the gates, that obviously makes a big difference as well. But generally just, yeah, the siege combat and the siege maps themselves have also been improved. Obviously, if you want more complicated siege maps and layouts and things like that, I'd highly recommend mods like Gekokujo. Gekokujo, one of the best mods to pioneer, at least in my opinion, I think that was one of the first mods to pioneer the siege layout of starting the siege in a certain point and then moving through that place. So for example, if you were besieging a town, you would start on the very outside. Your units would have to bash down the outside door, and then you would be running through the streets, fighting as many enemies as you could, running through these various sectors and quarters of the town itself, eventually getting to the Lord's Keep in the very center or at the very top of the town, and then you would have a big standoff between the final units and your own forces. And at that point, it was just such a pioneering move. Anyway, we're going to be receiving 8,000 per day from the Aryans. There we go. Perfectly happy to do this. 46 prisoners I had. 46 prisoners. And then we're going to be focusing on the Nicanians, and I've taken the town, which is great. So yeah, hopefully the Lamoka will do a little bit of something as well to actually damage the Aryans in somewhat of a way. And whoa, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to do something about this. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to Haquan, and we're gonna see what's going on there. But generally, I think that's probably going to be it for this episode. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.